Welcome to another episode of the Better SMB podcast, hosted by David Alterner and me, Rob Bull. We're here to help small and medium-sized businesses like yours achieve more. Whether you're looking for practical tips, inspiring stories, or expert advice, we have you covered. Join us as we dive into the world of business, sharing insights and strategies to help you grow and succeed. This week, David chats a little bit more with me, that's Rob, to get a better understanding on my take on productivity and how it relates to SMBs in New Zealand. Also, I just have a little bit longer chat about how lean thinking fits into this picture. Hopefully you find something a little bit interesting and a few takeaways on this one. This is a really excellent episode for us. We enjoy having a conversation about each other's skills and knowledge and how it can help SMBs in New Zealand. But that's enough from me. Let's get started on with the podcast.
Welcome back to the Better SMB with David and Rob. Today, we're going to be talking about what the truck is productivity. It's a big subject. It's really big. And Rob, I know you work with Lean. Lean, as I understand it, is something that I find very hard to achieve. It takes lots of running. I like lean steaks, but Lean is a whole other thing, isn't it? And you do a lot of work with it. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Absolutely. And first of all, I don't like lean steaks. I like the good Wagyu with all the rib, the fat rippling all the way through the meat. But that's beside the point. It's another podcast subject altogether. So lean was created, or one of the birthplaces of lean, obviously with Toyota, was created to solve the constraints of a business. And when Toyota was really starting to grow as a car manufacturer out of World War II, they had a whole lot of constraints, which was lack of suppliers, lack of staff, lack of cash flow, and even warehousing and factory space, because Japan out of the end of World War II was in a bit of turmoil. So they had to create a system that solved all the problems that mass production created. So with mass production, it was all about just pushing as much material out as possible. And when we go back to productivity, in a technical sense, and you'll talk about this later, David, in a technical sense, that was high productivity because per unit, which are people, they were punching out cars every 2 minutes. But lean kind of takes a different slant. It's not just about pushing out as much as possible. It's being effective and efficient with the resources that you've got. So when we look at lean, what lean was, and the term came about after a couple of Americans coined that term in the 80s, is taking out the gaps in a process. So if you're waiting around, waiting for a supplier to turn up, that's waste. If you're waiting for information to turn up, that's waste. If you're making a whole lot of quality errors and you're doing a whole lot of rework, and that could be in an administrative role or it could be manufacturing, anything that you have to rework, that's waste. So do it once, slow down and do it well first time, and then pass it through. Hence the reason the term lean came out, because it was taking out all of that potential waste. With that, then you become efficient with your resources. And that's what lean is about. I do talk about productivity, but it's not perfect productivity from the academic equation that we often refer to.
Right. So when I think about productivity, it's maximizing the outputs that you're getting from your inputs. And if we look at lean is helping you maximize those outputs, but it's really putting a focus on the input side of things. That's my takeaway from that.
Yep. And it's been efficient, but also it's been predictable. So I've got a couple of clients at the moment, we're not trying to go faster at the moment. We will maybe get some efficiencies with the limited team that they've got, but we're also trying to get their production released in a predictable manner. So at the moment, they're fluctuating around 20%, which I would suspect is quite typical for most New Zealand companies. So can we get that down, that fluctuation, down to 10% and then 5%? I guess this is also the space of Lean Six Sigma, because Six Sigma is all about variation and minimizing that variation. It's looking at all the reasons why those variations caused and getting control of those and managing those and improving it. So then work just flows. And in Lean, it's all about going slow to go smooth, smooth to go fast. And there's a big push around creating flow. So everything should just flow naturally without any sort of bumps and grinds, so we can be predictable, and then of course we're efficient with our resources, because then we're not mucking around.
Can you talk a bit more about Six Sigma? That sounds interesting.
There's a lot of variations to Lean. So you've got people that go, I practice Kaizen, I practice Six Sigma, Agile thinking, the Agile Manifesto, all come from genesis of Lean thinking. So it's all about being efficient and being smart. So Six Sigma takes a little bit more of a technical element, which is around that variation, and so like a lot more measurements around each of the steps of a process, looking at, again, at the variation of those steps so we can minimize that variation. Whereas the way I practice Lean, which is quite often around just continuous improvement and how can we fix your job so it's stuff that bugs you and we can eliminate those grinding and silly mistakes that we're always doing. That's more the practical side of Lean, that I would say. One's a little bit more technical than sort of the human side of Lean, which is where I kind of practice a lot.
Right. So continuous improvement, what do you think, where do you think that sits for most business owners?
Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. The continuous improvement mindset in most Kiwi businesses is non-existent. And it sounds pretty harsh, but that's why we're 30% below the OECD average in productivity. You're looking at maybe the top 5% that look at R&D, but that's quite different than creating a culture within a business of how can you do your job better today than it was yesterday? How can you stop the silly little errors or mistakes or issues keep cropping up? We have this mantra of if we need to get the job done, we roll up our sleeves, number 8, wire it, just work 10 hours a day for the next, how many weeks to get the job done. Whereas what we propose in the Lean community is slow down or even stop, have a look at how you're doing things. What are the causes of all of those firefighting? Let's stop those causes for good, or at least control them, and then carry on. We've got this whole sense of values around the hero that keeps coming in and saving the day, and the firefighting, the firefighter that swoops in and let's save the day. And we celebrate that, and then we don't put time aside after that event to do a retrospective and a reflection about why that happened so it doesn't happen again. We tend to high-five each other, celebrate that we fixed that problem that might have been causing getting something out on a deadline or whatever, and then forgetting about it. So continuous improvement in New Zealand businesses is zero, absolutely non-existent. Whereas the high performers will put 20, 30 minutes a day for all of their staff to look at how can they improve their job. Now, that might be cleaning up their desk so they can find everything. That might be spending time on the computer filing system so it's all nicely organized so everyone can find stuff. All the latest additions is in a logical space, or there might be a standard across the company, not just everyone's different ideas about how files can work. And then it goes up to, how do we onboard new clients? Do we all have the same standard? And looking at how we can improve that customer experience so it gets better and better and better. I see that in very, very little examples from a percentage-wise across the country. Sorry.
So what I'm hearing you say is we want to be people like Neville Longbottom off Harry Potter. I have no idea who that is. We want to be Arthur Dent off Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's what we should be trying to be when it comes to how we do things in our business. But unfortunately, we're a little bit more addicted to maybe the Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible or Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, right? We're trying to be the movie star, and they're probably really bad examples. I'm not into movies, so I've got bad examples. But you know what I mean, right? We all want to be the we want to save the day and then come back and do it again. Versus actually, let's just get this working nicely.
Yeah, because it's a lot of kudos, right? And people, get a lot of recognition for those kind of actions, and it's that sense of importance and certainly sense of control. There's also a bit of a saying, right? Is the firefighter is often the arsonist, and I've actually seen this in practice where some people, and we've all seen this, but some people will make things so complicated that they remain important and critical to a process or to a whole business, whatever that might be. They don't even entertain the idea of thinking from a team aspect, thinking from that high level, end-to-end business prospect, going, if I simplify my role, if I even exit myself out of that whole process, things might actually go faster or smoother. But they feel the need of importance and belonging when they keep that control. It's a really interesting space. There's a whole lot of human dynamics and psychology going on in there, but that's what happens. And until an external like myself come in and points the finger to what I would see sometimes as the obvious, owners just go, well, that's just how it is here. This is the way we've always worked. And they don't see any other way.
Oh, that's the way we've always done it. I love to hate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to kill a few sacred cows every now and again. I'm curious, what got you, because you were in healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
What got you thinking that this was a space you wanted to go to outside of the maddening life of living in healthcare? Yeah, what set you off down that track?
So I've always been interested in quality. So I love quality and sort of using quality metrics, but also the focus on enhancing quality. And particularly in healthcare, it was always the customer experience. That's number one. It's always, that customer must come first. And how can we provide a better service in healthcare? That sort of embodies the continuous improvement space, etc. And as I was going around and going into different roles and certainly into senior roles, then you get a chance to look at across different health organizations and looking at the bigger picture as well, and looking at how teams collaborate to either increase skill mixes across or better referrals or just better conversations, better follow-up, all of that. So it really focuses on quality. And lean and quality pretty much are yin and yang. So there is a lot of work that in the Japanese industries focused heavily, and through the 70s and 80s and 90s, really focused on quality, continuous improvement, and what we also called lean. Because when you think about in a lot of Japanese companies like Toyota, Honda, Mazda, they don't understand the term lean. It's only Western academics that put that title to what they do. But effectively, they do continuous improvement, business excellence, and quality. In fact, the Japanese almost took on Dr. Deming and a lot of his work around it. He came up with the plan, do, check, act, the PDCA cycle, all of those things. Now, he pretty much just got embraced by Japan to improve their quality almost to pathological levels of detail. So that was my journey through health. And when I came across this whole framework called Lean, it was just a nice way and a nice framework to use quality, but also look at how processes worked along and all of that, looking at eliminating waste, but also embody continuous improvement. So it kind of just wrapped everything in a nice little bow. They all don't, it's not all pure, pure lean, but it's the way I practice. You focus on quality, you focus on continuous improvement, you look at a little bit of waste from a lean technical point of view, and you should be making 20 or 30% better efficiency with your resources after probably 2 to 3 years of just sustained efforts in that area.
But 20% for every 5 people you've got, you're freeing them up.
Yep.
You're freeing up 1 person for every 5, if we look at that, although that's a 2 to 3 year journey to get there.
And it's one of those things you can get there, make the initial improvements quite quickly, and that last 5% is going to be a lot harder.
Right.
But there's no reason why within 6 months, if teams understand the time that it requires to achieve that, because that's where we fall over, but if they're willing to put that time aside, there's no reason why a team can't achieve that in 6 to 12 months.
Wow.
At least 10 to 15% improvement.
So with results like that, what gets in the way of people that you're seeing doing that, taking action? Why can't we take action?
Number of things. The top ones is the perceived cost. And I say perceived cost. Yes, it's going to cost a few grand a month bringing a consultant like myself to help speed it up, but you don't have to have a consultant. It is the cost of putting time aside, and this is where the true cost really is, or the biggest cost for a business, is putting time aside as a leader, but also as your teams to dedicate half an hour each day. So if you've got 10 people, that's a lot of hours per day into continuous improvement. It is we don't have time because they're so far behind the 8 ball that it's almost, why would you stop and slow down to try and catch up? We've just got to work longer and faster and harder. So it is that breaking that mentality up. So that's one barrier. But certainly cost is a big one, particularly with cash flow issues that we've got at the moment coming out of recession. That's real. Teams have to be a little bit innovative or go to their financial advisors and look at how they can manage their cash flow a little bit just to release that. But it's certainly achievable. But probably the biggest barrier is awareness. And I say awareness because Callaghan Innovation do a fantastic job every year. They do rolling workshops around lean thinking across New Zealand in different areas. So they go from, right from north to bluff every year, hosting about a couple of dozen workshops. Now, I know for a fact earlier this year, the one in Wellington was undersubscribed, so they had to cancel it. Whether or not that was a cost thing, but it was only $200 for a staff member to turn up for a day with some highly trained lean experts. Or was it just lack of awareness? When people go, oh, lean, what's your questions? So when you go into networking events, what do you do? I'm a lean consultant, practitioner, or whatever you want to call it. And they don't know what it is. The other one that I might get a little bit controversial about is business advisors. There are a lot of business advisors, which is a pretty broad term, but often they're based with accountancy firms or accountants, and they talk about how they're business advisors. Now, they might have fantastic advice around how to manage their cash flow, maximize profits from a paper point of view, but they don't go out into the workshop. They don't physically walk a process like I do, or a lot of consultants do, to look at where you can actually streamline processes to create more value, which will then create more profitable margins. They look at numbers on a piece of paper and advise from that.
That's something I've picked up on lately, where I'm starting to say profit does not equal productivity, but productivity can equal profit, right? Because just getting more profit doesn't actually mean that you've made yourself more efficient or effective.
Correct. And it's also about growth. I do a workshop, a simulation workshop with a lot of clients that I onboard, or I do it as one-off training. I did it a couple of weeks ago with different teams, and it's really effective to show them how they, by just communicating better, by planning, by having things like stand-up meetings and just getting everything streamlined and tidy and organized, you can make massive grounds in this. And it's a 10-person activity, and over 3 and a bit hours, we can get the process done with half the amount of staff in under half the amount of time. It always happens, right? That was the outcome.
Wow.
I did this workshop once a number of years ago with a bunch of accountants, and they just told me right after the first round, so they get 4 rounds at playing this game. After the first round, they said, this is impossible. We can't do it. We need more people. So effectively, what they were saying, for us to achieve this growth of producing more, we need more people. But we know that, okay, you might get growth, but all of that extra resource is going to not even nibble away at your profit margins. It's going to just munch it to the point where your turnover might be, 3x, 4x, but your profit margins might actually be negative. And, what do you know? 2.5 hours later, I proved those accountants wrong. But the go-to was you need more people. And I see that now, through the recession and, very much back end of COVID, is we've got skill shortage. Absolutely accepted. Some areas there is skill shortages, but I would go out as saying as much as 80% of industry isn't skill shortage, it's poor utilization of resources. I reckon we've got enough people, we just don't use them well enough or smart enough.
I'd agree. And utilization is a big thing, right? Understanding how people are utilized to produce the end result versus spending their time, as you mentioned, doing rework or admin stuff or whatever. And if you're getting that on a large scale, then your business is going to struggle.
And then a lot of business owners get caught up in a lot of the shiny new things. And this is in your space now. Digitalization, AI, Industry 4.0, which is not around using of robotics. That's Industry 2 or 3, or I can't remember which one it was. But Industry 4 is around about the blend of data and using data and technology to make a process smarter. So there is a really big push around that. But my challenge here, and I'll be interested in see how all of that stuff from your space, David, is the challenge I find from a New Zealand perspective is that's great for the absolute top 5% of organisations who are performing, who have got the cash, they're large enough to invest in some of that technology, but not the 80% of those SMEs that we often look at. Plus, we're so far behind having poor processes that there's probably a good 10 years worth of work of getting that stuff sorted before effective use of technology is in play. Otherwise, I think you quoted it, we've quoted it in the podcast before, we get shit in, shit out faster. That's all we're doing.
Yep.
So, I wouldn't mind, getting your thoughts around how those SME businesses just get magpied to shiny things, right? And they go, oh, let's try this. They want the TVs on the wall and all of that kind of stuff, when it's actually sometimes getting in the way of progress.
Yeah, I think in the SMB space, there's a lot of businesses that are just busy being busy, and they're not even getting to the tech, right? Like tech for them is they went from Google to Microsoft or whatever, or they got a new website. You talk about data and getting into the data around what they're doing, even just at a high level, understanding how they make their money and what their main input costs are.
Yeah.
Things like that, businesses don't have a good grasp on, let alone getting into leveraging tech to make themselves quicker, faster, smarter, and so forth. We've also had this historic thing, which COVID just really stuffed us up with COVID, and the wage inflation spike has really just stuffed us up, where it's now not affordable to just keep getting more people. You have to actually start innovating to produce better outcomes because people are expensive. I mean, look, McDonald's, you go in there and you're ordering, you're punching the thing, you walk into the supermarket, everyone's got self-serve now, right? Because it is just simply not affordable to just keep adding people for what ultimately, we might get a bit of backlash on this, are low value jobs. right? Those are entry-level jobs. No one should be having a career working as a burger flipper in McDonald's. Now, I know there's lots of opportunity in McDonald's to move up through their different education programs and so forth, but those entry-level jobs we're starting to see are getting replaced by technology because it is more cost effective, but that's out of reach of lots and lots and lots of businesses because they're not looking up and around. They're trying to make payroll next week.
Yep. I mean, I was at a presentation around Industry 4.0 and, and sort of utilization of data and working really smart. But one of the big issues that I pointed out was our supplier relationships, and certainly in New Zealand, our supplier management is quite naive. And when I say that is the low maturity of the supplier or the supply chain, I guess, in New Zealand is really, really poor. Because I can digitalize this and digitalize that and have it all of it. But if 6 of my suppliers aren't even up to that standard, I've really just created something that looks nice, but that can't be used and can't be collaborated. So it's a really tough one. I think there is an opportunity. I think there is a role to play in all of that. But I think we need to get the analog system better. We need to lift the awareness of opportunity out in the SMB market significantly more to get those gains, because the gains that we talk about, the 20-30%, which are absolutely possible, once they're hitting that and the income's coming off that, then they can reinvest that into the new tech. But as you say, they're being busy. They're on the hamster wheel. It's just spinning. They turn up tomorrow on a Monday morning and they're just trying to find what the heck happened at the end of last week. And by the time they know it, it's Friday again and they're just spinning that wheel. Yes, there are examples of people who have achieved different, but again, it's a top 5% or even less than that. But what we really need is at least 50% of our SMBs performing at even average OECD standards, and we're not achieving that. And this is a subject that's been going on since the early 1980s. Well, actually 1960s, I think it started to decline. That's a big challenge. That's something we can do at a business level, at a team level strategy to lift up the awareness. Hey, there is an opportunity to do things differently, and that will take almost a generation of business owners. Because how many times have you walked in, he's old school, he won't buy into this. So we've got to start even through our apprenticeships, with all our trade apprentices. They don't teach lean. They don't teach continuous improvement. They don't teach business excellence. You go to university. So I wanted to do my master's in something that was close to productivity. There is no university in New Zealand that does any master's level qualifications anywhere close to this. Massey University had masters in quality. It's now been cancelled because of lack of attendance. You go to all the MBA programs and you're an MBA student. How much time and how many, as a percentage was focused on this stuff?
That would be pretty minimal. It was very high level. We're talking about supply chain, you're talking about leadership, you're talking about people, you're talking about hiring and firing and those sorts of things. But yeah, you're right.
Why aren't you talking about quality and flow of your supply chain? Why aren't you talking about those sort of the macro lean objectives and all of that kind of stuff? Because it can be just seen as a company by company thing. But Japan, certainly Toyota, if you have a contract to service Toyota, they will send their senseis, their lean trainers, into your organization for up to 2 years to get you up to speed, because they want that whole ecosystem running at a high performance so they can do what they know they can do. I challenge the leaders of the MBA programs are going, even in supply chain, you can talk about business excellence, efficiency, productivity, all of it, but we don't. Yet the politicians get up and go, we must improve this, and the only solutions is building roads. And I don't think anything that we spoke about today has got anything to do with roading or where ports are located and all that. That's periphery stuff.
These are kind of fundamental things, right? So I'm a mum and pop business owner. I've got 5 staff, 10 staff, whatever. Maybe it's a family-run business. Maybe there's 50 staff. We're nose to the grindstone. We're super busy. I've seen some of the photos of your workshops with your whiteboards full of post-it notes. So
Yep.
the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm busy, but I'm not too busy that I can't call into warehouse stationery and pick up some my nice big A1 pads and a whole bunch of post-it notes. What could I do tomorrow to start making steps in the direction of operating my business with some of those lean fundamentals?
First of all, you don't need to go to warehouse stationery except for the post-it notes. The brown paper, art paper, $2 shop, get a roll for $2 each or $2.50 now. So I'm always buying 3 or 4 or 5 rolls at a time. So you can just absolutely roll them out, put them up on the wall, and then throw gently to your team members a whole lot of post-it notes. And on each post-it note, write one thing that pisses you off, one thing that stops or frustrates you or has a struggle in your job. Write it up and put it up on the wall. Then do that again and again, probably 3, 4, 5 times. So if you've got a team of 5 and I've just done 5 things that piss you off, you've got 25 ideas up on the wall, opportunities to sort out. Pick one. We don't have to get into any flash priority matrix and all of that kind of stuff. Just pick one, work out what it is, have a conversation around it, and what the countermeasure is to it, or the improvements, and fix that. Once you fix it, might be a week, might be a day. That's cool. Put it on completed pile. Next. If you spend time working through those 25 post-it notes, you'll improve by 10% or more. That's what a business can do. Business could just watch a YouTube clip. There's probably about 3 or 4 really good lean experts, gurus, fanatics on YouTube. Find their channels and watch one video every Monday with your team, and then go, what's one thing we can do that's come out of this video that we can implement into our jobs right now over this next week, and then just do it. They're watching, they're learning, they're teaching each other, then they're going out and doing action. So they need to set some time to make those improvements. And probably the last thing that a leader can do is put 4 hours aside each week to go and watch what is actually happening. Don't go out into a workshop or out into an office and just get busy working alongside people, but stop and observe, even for 5 minutes. Why are they moving across the workshop? Why are they doing this? Observe the process to understand actually what's really happening. Write it down on a notebook and ask the team curious questions about, I saw that you were just sitting there for 7 minutes. Why was that? Because I'm waiting for Bob to get that report over to me or whatever. Wonder if we could speed that up. Why do you have to wait? Asking those questions. So up to 4 hours a week, spending on continuous improvement, but going out, observing, and going to where the work's done so they can see what's actually going on. Do it with curiosity, do it with questions and open eyes. Go to see is a big catchphrase in the lean world. Easy.
So I'm a big believer in keeping things simple.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to play back what I heard. I think maybe we kind of use this also to wrap up on this one. But so step 1, I'm going to go get some brown paper. I'm going to chuck it up on the wall in the smoko room, and I'm going to say to my team, hey guys, while you're grabbing a coffee or whatever, I'd just like each of you to maybe pop up 5 things on a post-it note that you find frustrating.
Yep.
With how this business is operating.
Yep.
Just do that. It's actually, that's taken about 10 minutes of going in to get the brown paper, the post-its, and hang them up on the wall. That's it. Once I get those, then there'll probably be a bit of overlap on them and whatever, but I'm going to prioritize, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to fix one thing, and probably the easiest thing.
Yep.
And then once I've done that, I might look at the next one, the next one, the next one, and so on. Maybe if I did those 2 steps over a month, and then the third thing you talk about, to actually take time to stop and watch with curiosity and just look at how people are doing what they're doing. So those are probably 3 things that every business owner could immediately do tomorrow, which we're recording this on Sunday night, is Monday morning.
Absolutely. No special technology, no special knowledge, certainly no special external consultants coming in and getting in the way. They are really straightforward actions. The big thing that falls down and why a lot of organizations try to start but don't is that they underestimate the time required to get started, get over that initial hump of extra work while we're still being busy, but then being dedicated to keep going. It's like going to the gym in New Year's. We go for the first 4 weeks, and then one day we just, not today. And then all of a sudden today becomes a week, and then that week becomes a month. And then all of a sudden you pay 12 months of gym membership when you went for 6 weeks.
Yep. So I'm going to add a step 4. Step 4, we would like to hear from people listening to this podcast about the steps they've taken, what they learned, and what they did, and what the result was. That'd be great. So I think, should we wrap it up there?
Yep, I think that should be enough there to stimulate some thinking, hopefully inspire and challenge some of the SMB owners out there and managers just to keep it simple and just start. That's all we want to do. And that is what productivity is. It's what about efficiency. It's good use of our people. It's showing respect of our people. And then, just become a better business. That's all we ask for.
Right. So wrapping it up. Thanks very much, Rob. You've been doing most of the talking today. I guess it was your turn. Catch you next time. Tune in, everyone, on the Better SMB.
If you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you very much for supporting David and myself, that's Rob, in supporting the Better SMB podcast and the mission that we're on to help every SMB in New Zealand be better and perform more. Remember to hit like and all of that stuff that you're supposed to do when listening and supporting podcasts. And also, if there's any topic or there's someone that you think we should be interviewing, please reach out, send us a message, hit us up on LinkedIn. All of those avenues were available. Thank you again, and thank you for supporting the SMB podcast.